So the most challenging part, once we had everything, I had everything here, the user then selects what we have seen in the Dynamo player. And we have all the points where we need to place the angles. It was this little piece here.
Pure and hard geometry in the end. Days and days dreaming about it.
That's very difficult for artificial intelligence to replicate because, in the end, the exact problem of your highly personalized project is very complicated. Hello, BIM bosses. Today I come accompanied, as you can see on the channel, by Ariadna Grau, who is an architect and specialist in structures and a colleague in the Dynamo Python online specialization. So, a pro. Welcome, Ariadna.
Good afternoon, Louise. Thank you for having me.
A pleasure. So, I'm going to ask you a few questions, and I also want you to please show some of the examples of the things you have done during the specialization so that people can see the scope you can have during it, and especially what you have developed for real projects. I would like to ask you if you remember how you felt before enrolling in the specialization. If you had doubts, if you had any fear or insecurity now that you're seeing it from the other side, right?
In fact, I was looking for several months for some training that seemed good for me. I'll put it that way, because there was about 3 years ago, I took a mini course because I got a project like those where you have to set 30,000 parameters in the model in each element. And I said, oh no, that's not going to work. See? I said, I'll see if it can be done another way, discover Dynamo. But in that course, the Ilaya, they only taught me to do that. I mean, Excel, Revit, Excel, and they didn't teach you the why. So when I came across BoldBrain, there was something that told me, wow, that seems different.
But I don't know why it seems so to me. Watching the channel's videos, seeing what people were doing, I think I read the syllabus 300 times.
Because it was like, see, I'm not sure it will be for me or if I'll be able to do it, because I find the Dynamo part really accessible. It possesses the plans very visual, which being architects is what we excel at, the visual. But with Python, I thought, wow, I don't know if I'll be able to understand it, not to mention doing it, but
understand it. So my main fear was that to note like, oh, will I be able to do it? When I looked at the syllabus before signing up, I did think that maybe it wasn't for me. Because you talked a lot about rooms, architectural things. I really don't do those things at all. There comes a moment when you start seeing how everything connects and you say, that's going to be useful for what I'm going to want to do. And ideas start popping up and you say, okay, I've been doing rooms, but I can extrapolate it. So you don't just stick with the example of this is done like this and that's it, but it helps you to then expand and the mind basically and have ideas for scripts to do at your
The
will.
part about Python, right, is what I had the most respect for, wasn't it? And what made you say yes in the end to say, come on, I'm signing up?
what really caught my attention was, researching and doing new things. I love it. And I was like, come on, I'll jump in the pool. I don't know if there's water, but I'll jump and see how it goes.
That is to say.
There has been water.
Yes, there was water.
Okay. And regarding study time, because there are many people who find it to be intense training, right? It's a course that involves work, and I tell you this from the start. How do you manage to balance your work as you work as an architect and also in structures, being a mom of a baby, and this intense training?
See, it's not easy because I started in September. The child had just turned 1 year old. So these months of training have been the ones with the most demand at the end of from my son's age. I've also managed the lesson thanks to my husband, who leaves a bit of free space so I can do the training, taking advantage of the times when the child sleeps to do it outside of working hours. I also have to tell you that I got so hooked just from block one.
That it wasn't hard for me to set myself the task of watching 1 or 2 videos each day and doing the practices and exercises. It's through that block. The initial blocks aren't as complicated as when you get to the Python blocks, but there you do have to pay more attention.
And maybe review something. I mean, I have kept up with the pace of the course practically until more than halfway through the course, which is when the specialization of each one begins and things start to get a bit more complicated, but the rest was no problem.
And what direct impact has this specialization had on your work?
Well, on a professional level, doing the training has meant that the company saw the potential I can offer now that I am training with this. And the job improvements associated with that potential have come. So they have promoted me to lead the BIM department with all the responsibilities that entails, meaning it really has helped me level up.
Of course, because many times people tell me, sure, but if they already don't understand what I do using Revit, how are they going to understand what I do with these? Was it hard for you to explain, or did they really see it quickly?
At first, maybe it was a bit abstract and they didn't quite understand it. And the day I showed them the script, well, the thing is powerful now. It doesn't take us, maybe not many hours, but it gives us security and peace of mind about what we are doing. They said, oh, and then can you do more things? Of course. And that's when we sat down, we met, and we said, okay.
All this is what can be done. Yes, if they don't see it, they don't start to grasp it. When people see it, that's when. But it's normal because it's very abstract, as you say. Could you tell us, for the people on the other side, what kind of scripts have you developed with Dynamo or with Python? Because in the specialization, we cover both depending on where you are in the specialization because you're still inside.
Yes, I'm still in block 9. I mean, I still have a few blocks left to finish. From the start, I began to create small scripts, just a few nodes, 2-3 nodes, but when they work, you think, wow, I did it. And I started developing scripts for example, we are very focused on timber structures with panel CLT. These panels have transportation measurements that if you exceed them cannot be transported. So if you have planned that building with panels that cannot be transported, it can come back to recalculate. This one here, for example, checks if, in this case, the walls meet the dimensions of the trucks. Then it will paint in green those that fit in a gooseneck truck. There is green and yellow, sorry. The top liner, which is the normal truck, will be colored green. And if there is any that is special transport, which is what we have to avoid, it will color them red. Here we see, for example, that the green ones, we have 319 panels that fit in the standard truck. The yellow ones would be a truck, not a special transport, but a slightly longer truck, which can also be used, which would fit 165 panels, but we would have 5 panels, which are the red ones, that do not fit in the truck. So here, we as consultants have to figure out how to make these panels fit. They can't arrive now. Well, they can arrive, but with an unnecessary extra cost. And with the walls, there in the slabs, it's the same.
Okay, and this before doing the specialization, the one you say, this is the first one I did, the simplest one. How did you do it before, or what process did you follow?
By hand, looking at the panels. Of course, if they are the same floors, you say, okay, I look at the one below, and they are all the same. But you had to go elevation by elevation, verifying dimensions, measuring.
Of course, so that thing you say is simple, and well, no, it's not that it's simple. How much time?
Yes, it is simple, but of course it saves you a day of work. With a building of these characteristics, you've spent the entire morning checking if the panels are right or not.
If there are other scripts you can show me where you say, this has made me feel super proud, or this has had a lot of impact, results in my company.
Well, this script, which is one I am developing and not yet finished. In this case, these would be wooden walls. And between the wooden walls, in each corner, we have to place some brackets to screw them in and for it to behave like a box, which is what we have the list here. So placing these angles one by one on the verticals at the distance from the floor we need, at the ceiling, and in the position of intermediates. That is laborious work, and you have to go to the elevations to make sections and place them at height, because at the same time, you can't draw well. So with the script, what I do is ask the user who is using it how far they want the first angle, that is the center of the ceiling angle, from the floor, and how many angles they want in between. Here they need to select the angle, which is already selected right now. Because in this file, I only have this one, and select the walls where I want to place angles. In this case, it would be this corner, this, and this. And I hit render. Now it's going to take a little while because it's processing all the geometry. Yeah? And it takes a bit of time because
in the end, is a very geometric script that has quite a load. It's finished now and has placed the angles, the ceiling one, the floor one, and the two intermediate ones. And now, for example, I could tell it that I wanted to place 3 intermediate ones and select other walls, different ones so that they don't overlap. And now it has placed the rest, which as we see, has added the 3 that I told
Can you
it.
bring that closer? That way we can see how it's set up. How cool. And why was there so much
Due
fuss?
to the rotation of the angles.
It was very difficult for me to find how to turn that angle so that you take it into account. In fact, if you have
Seen the plan, it is intentionally rotated. It's no longer at 90 degrees XY because of...
No, it always came out well. And when you turned a little, everything was off. But turning this was chaos. It helps us and also creates the detailed sections so that later we can dimension and name them. And now you have the section ready to deliver the detail.
When a human places it by hand, they understand what the inner corner is. But for a computer to understand what an inner corner is, it might not be so easy. And then that piece to understand the shape as well.
We open the Dynamo for
Well,
them.
of course, people on the other side will say, yes, have her open it. Let's see
This
it.
is the mess. This is the Dynamo.
Is there any part of it you feel more proud
This
of?
is the one where they place the angles and this part. And this is the one that creates the sections, which is the latest implementation. Of course, what it does here is grab the walls, filter those that are CLT, because otherwise I don't want them. Locate the position of the wall, the thickness, the height, and then we begin to work with the geometry because so we make the location lines on the wall parallel to see the corners where they meet. So what took the most time was once I had all this, here the user selects what we've seen in the Dynamo player. And we have all the points where we need to place the angles. It was this part here.
Defeat the angles. That comes from all this here was...
In which I do, well, in the end, you see bisecting vector, geometric, pure geometry in the end. To achieve that the angle of rotation of the angular aligned with the turning angle of the wall of the two walls. Because if it were one, it still had to align at the corner. And this piece here was the one that I spent
Days and days dreaming about this.
Sure, sometimes I mention it to people because now, of course, the clients too, clients and students, but maybe they write to me saying, no, we asked an AI and I don't know what. I say, yeah, but this is no longer about AI. It's you making a plan and understanding, right? That's something very difficult for artificial intelligence to reproduce because in the end, your exact problem of your super personalized project is unique to you, although AI does help you, right? Also, we are already taking it for granted.
Yes, well, AI helps you, but it's not your mind. I was very clear about what I wanted to achieve, where I wanted to go, the steps, but I couldn't find a way to make the step. I asked the AI how to do it, like how to get the angle with, and it would tell you things that made you think, but those don't even exist.
It makes things up. Yes, that's where creativity is. But, well, when we saw it at the time, because I saw you were struggling with it, and we always address questions in a group. And in the end, among all of us, we try to help. If it comes to that, that's when ideas arise, right? And especially when you're struggling with it and mulling over the problem, that I think you have done more than enough, Ariadna. You can see it here, can't you? And do you have another one that you are cooking up right now? So, that was the first part of Ariadna's interview. If you want to check out the second part, where she'll be talking about how to adapt the foundation elements to the structural columns, you can check it out right here. And of course, you can check out the complete Dynamo Python mastery in this link. See you on the next one. Bye bye.